Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little bit wild. We are going to connect the microscopic bacteria living right now in your refrigerator to the literal survival of human civilization. Now, I know that sounds straight out of a science fiction movie, but stick with me. By looking really closely at our food, we can uncover the geographical rules that built entirely different worlds. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why the microbes inside a block of European cheese and the microbes inside a barrel of Japanese miso represent entirely different philosophies on life, nature, and society? It turns out that your everyday fermented foods secretly contain the operating systems of their respective cultures. They aren't just ingredients, folks. They are biological reflections of how completely different civilizations understand the universe itself. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll look at how different fermentation means different civilizations. Then we'll explore the West's singularity from dryness, followed by Japan's power of complex microbes. After that, we'll check out adaptability shown in agriculture, and finally, a sustainable future through complexity. We're going to connect the dots between microscopic biology, ancient theology, and 21st century climate survival. Section 1. Different fermentation, different civilizations. To truly understand our food and our philosophies, we first have to look away from the kitchen and instead look up at the sky and down at the dirt. The source material we're looking at today points out a really fundamental geographic divide. Over in the arid, dry zones of Eurasia, the Middle East, and North Africa, humans faced an absolute scarcity of water. To survive, they literally had to build massive singular irrigation projects. You just can't have competing groups managing one scarce river, right? It demands absolute centralized control. But by contrast, Japan's climate is incredibly humid, with abundant, evenly distributed rainfall. This wet climate didn't require massive centralized water grids. Instead, it allowed for distributed, local management that was perfectly adapted to highly specific microclimates. Moving on to Section 2, the West, singularity from dryness. Let's see exactly how this arid climate built the very foundation of Western thought and science. This created an absolutely incredible chain reaction. In arid climates, the sheer physical need for a single absolute ruler to manage scarce water logically evolved into a religious framework. Think about it. If one ruler controls the life-giving water, it makes perfect sense that one absolute God rules the universe. That's your monotheistic worldview. But it doesn't stop at religion. Fast forward to the 17th century, and thinkers like Descartes, Galileo, and Newton took this exact framework and applied it to nature. They established scientific reductionism, which is basically the belief that the vast, complex universe should be reduced down to single, absolute, mathematical laws. And this brilliantly illustrates how that single ruler concept eventually conquered microbiology in the West. By the 19th century, scientists like Louis Pasteur approached fermentation, things like making wine or cheese, with that exact same mindset. The goal was pretty straightforward. Isolate a single winning strain of bacteria or yeast, completely eliminate all the competitors, and control the environment perfectly to allow for industrial mass production. Now, this wasn't just about making better cheese or a more consistent batch of beer. This was a deep philosophical urge. Reductionism became the universal standard. By reducing a complex biological phenomenon down to a single manageable principle, like just one single microbe, Western science was actively seeking to eliminate chaotic competition and establish singular control over nature. All right, Section 3, Japan, power of complex microbes. Let's shift gears and contrast this with the East, focusing specifically on Japan's radically different, multi-layered approach to biology. I am genuinely fascinated by this concept, koji. This is the biological reflection of that wet, decentralized climate we talked about earlier. In Japan's humid environment, trying to isolate just one microbe is honestly like trying to isolate one single drop of water in a rainstorm. It's impossible. So instead, koji embraces a system where multiple entities coexist right alongside each other. Unlike the Western drive to isolate a single winning strain, Japanese fermentation intentionally embraces the chaos of multiple strains working together. Inside a miso barrel, koji fungi, yeast, and lactic acid bacteria are all interacting simultaneously. They aren't fighting for exclusive dominance. In fact, their complex interactions actually determine the rich flavor. Brewers even intentionally blend different koji strains together to create a massive, diverse ecosystem of enzyme activity. It is an incredibly adaptable, complex system that draws its real strength not from singular control, but from microbial interaction. Now, what's really interesting about this is the profound cultural parallel. Just as the single microbe approach mirrors Western monotheism, the chaotic harmony inside a Japanese miso barrel is structurally identical to the Shinto belief in 8 million gods. In a polytheistic, animist worldview, there isn't one absolute ruler of nature. There are countless independent forces, mountains, rivers, trees, all interacting. In Japanese fermentation, multiple microbes interacting are seen as a virtue. It's a biological reflection of multiple gods coexisting and complementing one another.
Section 4. Adaptability shown in agriculture. Let's zoom out a bit and see how this microscopic worldview scales all the way up to massive, real-world survival strategies out on the land.
When we apply these mindsets to farming, the contrast is super stark. The single-strain Western mindset created monoculture. We're talking massive fields of a single crop. Now, it is highly efficient and mechanized for sure, but it's also incredibly fragile. It exhausts the soil and requires heavy chemical dependency to fight off specific pests. On the flip side, the multi-strain Eastern mindset created polyculture. By mixing different crops with different root depths, they utilize the soil in distinct layers. It controls pests naturally through diversity, creating a remarkably resilient, stable system. It's vital to point out that planting multiple crops together wasn't just some aesthetic or stylistic choice for traditional Japanese farmers. It was a matter of sheer survival. Because Japan's wet environment features highly unpredictable and volatile rainfall patterns, relying on a single crop was just way too dangerous. If that one crop failed, everyone starved. Polyculture, much like the multi-strain fermentation of koji, provided incredible environmental adaptability. It acted as a vital buffer against extreme climate variability.
And that brings us to Section 5, a sustainable future through complexity. This is where we bring it all together, connecting these ancient climate-driven philosophies to our immediate modern reality.
So the crucial point is this. The Western model of efficiency through singularity, while it's undeniably powerful and historically successful in driving industry, it's hitting a catastrophic limit globally. We are seeing 21st century systemic failures driven by this exact singularity model. Think about it. Climate change accelerating way beyond predictable models, massive biodiversity loss, and severe soil degradation. These are all symptoms of treating complex natural systems as if they were simple, controllable machines. But here is the good news. The ancient wisdom found in the complex microbial interactions of koji and the layered resilience of polyculture farming offers exactly the kind of highly adaptable blueprint we need today. It teaches us a huge lesson. True resilience comes from diversity. It comes from overlapping strengths and from allowing multiple systems to coexist and interact organically. It is a powerful masterclass in environmental adaptability. So, I'll leave you with this question. Will humanity's ultimate survival depend on learning to embrace the chaos and complexity of interacting systems rather than constantly trying to control it all through singularity? It's pretty wild to think that the profound wisdom required to navigate our global future might just be found sitting in a traditional barrel of miso. Thanks so much for watching this explainer, and keep questioning the complex world around you.